Fiat isn't going away overnight. Now, it will eventually go away. I mean, we've had one money for 5,000 years. A money is an asset that exists in the absence of a liability. That's gold. Gold has been money for most of human history. And it's the only thing that you can take a single ounce from Cleopatra's time to a suit of armor to a zoot suit in the 20s to Savile Row today, and you exchange that ounce and you get a fine person's suit. It's been a perfect store of value. There have been 775 paper currencies, all kinds of countries all around the world over the millennia, and 3/4 of them no longer exist. All the others are down 97 to 99.99999%. And all of them will eventually go to zero because governments can't help themselves. They just spend their way into oblivion, and their currencies have to be devalued because that's the only way out. So digital assets, the interesting thing about them is, take Bitcoin. It's digital gold. It's equally scarce. Stock to flow ratio is fantastic. And it's more divisible and more portable. So I believe it will replace gold as the base layer of money. All money sits on top of gold. Central banks own gold. They issue debt, issue currency on top of that. That's the way the world works. I think Bitcoin replaces that. Fiat's not going to go down without a fight. And to your point, they're going to try to digitize it and make it centralized. But centralized is the opposite of what we all want, which is decentralized. And we will live in a decentralized world in the future.
I am sure there is some anticipation, and there could even be a sell on the news. But the fundamentals, we put out a Bitcoin monthly piece every month, and you can see the health of the network using our on-chain metrics. The health of the network is almost as good as it gets, and it seems like this is a bull market. Sure, we'll have puts and takes. Nothing goes straight up. But I think this flight to quality, Larry Fink used that expression. We call it flight to safety. You look at what happened during the regional bank crisis. Bitcoin went from 19,000 to nearly 30,000 as the KRE, the regional bank stock index, was imploding. If you look at the bank stock index today, it is back down close to where it was in March. So when Larry might say flight to quality, which is good, it's true, we would say flight to safety.
Stablecoins are here to stay. We are going to move to a digital world, whether the incumbents, financial services companies like it or not. Name a technology that came along that got critical mass that went away. Horse and buggy manufacturers didn't really like the automobile. The train companies don't really like airplanes. But I didn't take a horse and buggy or a train yesterday when I flew to New York. I flew in an airplane. So this isn't as inevitable as the internet. Phone companies didn't like the internet. They tried to pass laws to make it illegal. Imagine that. And Al Gore killed that bill. So he didn't invent the internet, but he certainly helped it. And look, stablecoins are a great way of transferring value quickly, efficiently, and without worrying about market price. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this. I think about it from time to time. Banks are closed more hours than they're open. The markets are closed more hours than they're open. And digital assets never sleep. I could transfer you USDC right now if I wanted to, if I could get to my phone, but I'm using my phone since I forgot my computer today. But I don't know. It's a long-winded way of saying I don't think stablecoins are the real reason we're seeing some pretty meaningful pumps in a number of coins. I think it's momentum, it's the halving cycle, it's the ETF, which BlackRock will get approved. Which day, I can't tell you exactly, but they're going to get approved. Whether anyone else does, I hope so, since I own pieces of two of the companies that are ahead of them in line. But I'm doubtful that they will get approval. I think BlackRock will get it. And I think that's going to bring tens, probably hundreds of billions of dollars into Bitcoin. And some of that's going to flow down into other coins as well.
I noticed in your answer you didn't mention CBDCs. And as I mentioned before, one would suspect that if you're going to make a large transaction, you're going to be more reluctant to use a stablecoin than you are a CBDC.
Oh, well, look, the incumbents would love if the world went to CBDCs. There was a big announcement this morning that Apollo and a bunch of others are doing this thing to help with the asset management business with JP Morgan and Avalanche. And okay, great, but that's a private chain. JP Morgan would love you to use a private chain. CBDCs, the reason I don't mention CBDCs is I think they're pure evil. I think they're one of the most heinous things you can imagine. Imagine that the guy in charge of the BLS, I'm sure you've seen Augustin, he's a kind of scary guy. And he says, of course, we should control how you spend your money, when you spend your money, if you be allowed to spend your money. Programmable money that a government can control is a very scary thing. Open and free markets are less scary to me. So I like stablecoins. I like digital assets. I love Bitcoin.
With our partner 21 Shares, which is the largest crypto ETP provider in the world, mainly European focused, we are launching 5 ETFs. The strategies are going to be around Bitcoin futures, Ethereum futures. One will be Bitcoin futures and cash. One will be Bitcoin futures and Ethereum futures. And then the last one will be broader Bitcoin and companies exposed to digital assets, equities.
How much of this is a dress rehearsal in your mind for a moment in which the SEC says, okay, cat's out of the bag, you can actually issue an ETF that's directly invested in Bitcoin?
Well, it certainly is a dress rehearsal. We think there's a place. I think these strategies will be more probably institutionally focused. And I think the Bitcoin ETF will be perhaps more retail focused.
Is that something you want to do eventually?
A spot Bitcoin?
Yes.
Yes. What's interesting about it is if you look at the pecking order, our filing is next in line. I think what has happened, the change, is that the SEC actually asked us questions. I think asked us questions, asked Blackrock, probably has asked a lot. Whereas before, our filings were just rejected outright.
Okay.
So that is movement. That is significant. And, over the years, I've gotten to know the research people at the SEC, and I'm very impressed. I was impressed by the questions they asked us, too. So,
what were the kinds of questions they asked?
A lot of them were very technical. They're all about protecting the consumer. And, of course, the showstopper, at least from Gary Gensler's point of view, is he thinks Bitcoin can be manipulated. And, this is a decentralized, transparent network. You can follow all the activity online. It's highly unlikely. Well, I don't know what it is. I have wondered. There's speculation that he's interested in the Treasury Secretary position at some point. What does the Treasury Secretary
fiat for the government? I mean,
very focused on. I don't know. I don't understand it myself because he definitely understands.
He understands. So there's something else.
There's something.
Okay, but
I am sure there is some anticipation, and there could even be a sell on the news. But the fundamentals, we put out a Bitcoin monthly piece every month, and you can see the health of the network using our on-chain metrics. The health of the network is almost as good as it gets, and it seems like this is a bull market. Sure, we'll have puts and takes. Nothing goes straight up. But I think this flight to quality, Larry Fink used that expression. We call it flight to safety. You look at what happened during the regional bank crisis. Bitcoin went from 19,000 to nearly 30,000 as the KRE, the regional bank stock index, was imploding. If you look at the bank stock index today, it is back down close to where it was in March. So when Larry might say flight to quality, which is good, it's true, we would say flight to safety because there's no counterparty risk in Bitcoin.
In terms of the ETF that is launching, that invests in equities related to Bitcoin, what do you think will be the better performer over, let's say, 5 years? An ETF that invests in the equity related to Bitcoin or Bitcoin itself?
We believe Bitcoin will be the better performer longer term. But this is a diversified exposure through equities. There are companies, we're trying to find the company that is going to produce the digital wallet. That will be a very important position. Is it Coinbase? Is it Square with Cash App? Is it Robinhood? In Latin America, is it Mercado Libre or Nubank? But we do think that each of them has a very good opportunity in the digital wallet space. Basically, if you think about WeChat Pay, that kind of digital wallet where all financial services take place, there's peer-to-peer interaction, there's commerce over it. We believe that, the rails in the United States have been good enough, but WeChat Pay showed the way. And I think we have
But is that a one-player winner? Meaning, and by the way, Elon Musk would like to be that winner with X if he could be.
Absolutely. And I think he's got big plans. Absolutely. He started in the fintech space and, of course, sold out to PayPal. So the reason we have focused as much on Ether, Ethereum as we have is we think, that is the smart contract network. That is the decentralized finance network.
So Bitcoin and Ether, anything beyond that?
Well, there are infrastructure players. Solana is doing a really good job. I mean, if you look at Ether was faster and cheaper than Bitcoin in the day. That's how we got Ether. Solana is even faster and cost-effective than Ether. So, there are infrastructure plays. We do believe Web3, digital assets. That's a big idea, actually. Digital assets with property rights. First time ever online that we're seeing property rights.
Do you see something more perfect than Bitcoin?
I think most people understand that Bitcoin is the money revolution. This is the first global...
A lot of people don't understand that because they haven't read anything about it.
Right, private, so no government oversight, digital, very important, rules-based monetary system in history.